Hi everybody, welcome to Now Z Here. I'm Ronan and this here is Wadsworth. And yes, today I am sporting glitter brows, as well as a very fancy tie knot, because like last year, I am taking part in the 30-day Dapper Challenge. So my aesthetic for the next handful of videos is going to be fancier than you're used to seeing. But I love bringing a little more fanciness into the world. Anyway, if you follow any other trans people on YouTube or anywhere, or you're friends with any trans people, you've probably noticed there's another challenge going around, 31 Days of Trans Visibility. It's a list of writing or, video prompts that's going around, and there's one for each day in March that ends with March 31st, which is the Trans Day of Visibility. And the idea is to make ourselves public, put ourselves out in the world and personalize the experiences that we are already living, hopefully for more people. I'm not taking part in the typical way of answering one question every day for a couple of reasons. First of all, one challenge at a time is enough. Second of all, I did take a look through the questions, and some of them do get pretty personal in a way that I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable putting out onto the internet. I'd be fine talking about them in person with friends, but just, for my own reasons, some of the questions I don't necessarily want to answer on this vlog. But I will answer some of them. And I think, it's a good thing to do. It's not so much a trans 101. It's more a getting to know us 101. So I'll start with 3 out of the first 5 questions today. And then pick and choose a few other questions for next week. Number 1, what is your name, your age, and how you identify? So, yes, hello, I'm Ronan. That's R-O-N-E-N. Although ever since I started reading the Raven Cycle, I kind of don't mind when people spell it with an A. I am 30 years old, going on 31 as of next month. And identify is a fun word. I've seen at least one person, someone I know who was answering this question, take issue with the word identify, because it implies that you're not really that thing. So instead of saying I identify as XYZ, they were like, I don't identify as this, I am, etc. Which is a perfectly valid way to approach it from. I personally like the term identify. I feel like this mind, body being, this spiritual being having a physical experience is not something that I can pin down in so many words, in just a few words, in a label which is ultimately imperfect because language is imperfect. So I like identify in that it expresses, here are the words I use to describe myself in a limited fashion. That being said, I identify as transgender. I identify as genderqueer and non-binary. Occasionally gender fluid, meaning my gender is not a fixed thing, or perhaps that the way in which it exists doesn't go along a binary spectrum. I will sometimes use transmasculine, but I will also use femme, as in feminine rather than female. As in transmasculine, I am transitioning toward a more masculine existence, but my presentation, it's pretty femme. Oh, also pansexual and bisexual, but sexuality and gender are not the same thing. Talk about your process of discovery and realization. I'm pretty sure I've gone over this before, but I'll do a Cliff Notes version so that people don't necessarily have to trek back through a whole lot of episodes, because I'm not even sure which episode I talked about it in. My process of discovery and realization was very long and very gradual. If I go back and I think back and I use my hindsight, I can think of instances in my childhood, in my elementary school years, where there were, hints, but I had very few ways of expressing what I was feeling. I did not have the language, especially as someone who exists outside the gender binary, I would get caught in this thought of, well, do I really want to be a boy? Not really. So I guess I'll just keep being a girl. And there was always that sense of something's not quite right here, but it's not destroying my life, and it's just sort of vaguely uncomfortable, and I don't know what to do about it, so I'm just going to let it sit back there. Now, it might not have been destroying my life, but in very real ways, it was pulling me back from living my life completely. It was putting me behind this shell. And it wasn't until my early 20s when I discovered Kate Bornstein's The Gender Workbook that I realized there was language for what I was feeling. It was an instant connection. And ever since then, it's been a conscious act of discovery rather than just sort of stumbling through. And again, I'm 30, so this has been going on for a while. Finally, talk about dysphoria. Do I experience dysphoria? How do I handle it? Etc. Currently, in my present life, I don't get a lot of dysphoria. I don't at least feel it to an extreme degree. I find that even when I do get misgendered, which for me means basically, she, her, ma'am, I mind less than I used to because I have been taking testosterone and I've, been doing other things like meditating, taking therapy, and just sort of working on this situation. Plus, I recognize that my presentation is very femme. I have long hair, I wear earrings, I wear rings. My voice has not dropped super low. I get it. And I'm now more secure in myself than I used to be, so I don't experience strong dysphoria on a day-to-day basis. I do get a little nervous using public men's bathrooms. Even the one at my survival job where I have been using the men's bathroom for 3 years since I started working there. And that's probably right now my biggest source of gender-related anxiety, which I think is a subcategory or a cousin of dysphoria, maybe. I will say, just to go back in time a little bit to when I experienced it to a much more extreme degree, it took me a long time to figure out that what I was feeling was dysphoria because it was wrapped up a lot with attraction. Because I am attracted to men, and I would get in this strange space of, I don't know if I'm really attracted to this guy, or I just actually wish I had his body. And a lot of the time it was both. Oh, and that's about all I have to say about dysphoria, but I didn't even mention pronouns. Pronouns do get frustrating to me because for the same reason that I feel very nebulous and I have trouble pinning a specific word on what I am. I don't necessarily have one set of pronouns that these are the pronouns and these are the ones that you should use for me always, always, always. Pronouns I will accept include Z, here, and here's, obviously based on the title of this vlog. He, him, and his. Probably the one most used by my coworkers at my survival job. They, them, and theirs, which at least from my personal experience perspective sort of feels like the gender-neutral starter kit pronoun, which is not to say that for anyone who strongly feels that they, them, theirs is an accurate pronoun for them. I don't want to demean that experience, but for me, I'm like, I just want to get weird, and I'd really like to get weird, but I also get anxious about asking other people to get weird. So if I feel like the person might not be willing to get weird with me, they, them, and theirs is fine. And then, speaking of getting weird, fae, fair, fairs. Yup, fae pronouns. As in fairies. As in, yeah, it sounds really weird, but when I first heard it, I was like, yes. And that little instinctual yes is, when you are living a trans experience, that's something you learn to recognize. Something that could be described as opposed to gender dysphoria, it's gender euphoria. Like, oh, that's the thing, that. So, Z, he, they, fae, all are welcome. And that's why I have a hard time always answering the "what's your pronoun?" question. Anyway, I have now babbled on for 19 and a half minutes. I usually try to keep my videos under 10 minutes, but I have a feeling there is not 9 minutes of silence in between my sentences here. And that's also part of the reason why I decided to only do a few questions per episode. Because I may not have time to do a video every day, but I do want to at least engage with this 31 Days of Trans Visibility list and answer some of the questions, the ones that I am comfortable answering. So thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you next week for the answers to more fascinating trans visibility questions. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and do please check out my Patreon. There is a link in the description below. Everyone have a good week, and always be changing.